You're listening to KX 93.5, Laguna's only FM. I'm Scott Hayes here with Robert Palmer. This is Radio Caravan. And Robert, you want to introduce our guest this morning?
I'd be honored to. We have here today our own Sheriff and Coroner, Sheriff Sandra Hutchens. Pleasure to see you, Sheriff.
Good to see you, Robert.
She's our 12th Sheriff, and I think, as I said, by far the best we've ever had. She was selected from a field of 48 candidates on a nationwide search. Our former sheriff, of course, is currently rotting away in jail, so we had an opening. We were so glad you could make it down. She has an amazing career. We'll get into that a little bit. We're so happy to have you come in. Her husband Larry's in the next room. Who's watching Tucker the dog? Is he at home?
He's by himself.
All right, wonderful. Thanks for coming.
Highly upset.
Yes, he should be.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
I'm curious, how did you and Robert meet, just out of curiosity?
Well, you won't find this surprising. We met at a party.
Oh.
So, knowing Robert, you know, that's not unusual, right?
Yeah. But you guys became quick friends, I guess.
We did.
Yeah?
We did. Very quick friends, and we've been friends ever since, and have dinner together from time to time, and just enjoy it.
That sounds great. Well,
Yeah.
thanks again for coming in.
Yeah,
Appreciate
my
it.
pleasure.
You know, I was doing some research. We were doing some research for this interview, and I had learned very quickly that you started your career as a secretary
Yes.
for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department.
Yes. So when I get asked, how did you get in law enforcement in the 70s, early 70s, you know, women didn't grow up thinking, gee, I'm going to be a cop someday.
Yeah.
And so I was putting myself through community college at the time, trying to make a living, and I had secretarial skills. So I applied to the Los Angeles County as a whole, and got picked up by the Sheriff's Department. It got picked up by the Sheriff's Department. I didn't mean it that way.
That didn't sound right.
That didn't sound right, no. I got hired by the Sheriff's Department, and now I'm working in Pico Rivera Station, typing in bookings and, you know, seeing how the work that they do and how they do it. So ultimately, I was asked by a couple detectives to apply.
What
to
do you
the
think they
Sheriff's
saw
County.
in you to ask you to apply for something that you probably hadn't considered up to that point, yes?
You know, I think there was a push at the time to hire more women, and I think that they saw that, you know, I was smart enough, you know, I understood how the job worked, and maybe physically could get through the academy. It was in pretty good shape, and so I think that's what caused it, and I'm glad they did. I don't think I would have done it if someone had not said, "Hey, why don't you think about it?" I just don't think I would have.
No one's
stepped
ever
into
suggested
that.
law enforcement for me. I don't know why that is.
Well, we'll talk about that
Okay.
later. Yeah. Offline, no.
So, were there any sort of unique hurdles you had to overcome as a woman in an industry that probably, your career up to that point, that was probably dominated mostly by men, yes?
Yeah, it still is.
Still is, yeah.
Still is. There's been a little progress in terms of the numbers, but yeah, you know, I think you'll find it interesting that I don't think the public was quite ready for it. You know, I remember driving around in a police car by myself, and I would get double takes from the public that look and say, "There's a woman in that car," and
Some woman stole the police car.
She's by herself. Oh my God! So yeah, I think it was new for the public. You were certainly many times, and still today, I'm the only woman in the room. I look around, I'm only woman in the room, and so we still have some progress to make there. But women make very good law enforcement officers, because it's more about communication, resolving conflict, than it is on TV. Yeah, are there officer-involved shootings? Are there fights? Are there, you know, those kinds of things? But more frequently, it's a domestic disturbance, it's a neighborhood dispute, it's a business dispute. So having those communication skills to work through it and not let your ego get involved in it, and just try and resolve conflict.
And those communication skills carried you through your career up to the point to where you became Sheriff-Coroner, yes?
Right. Well, I think what I have done, and what I advise other people to do in their careers, is when you get comfortable, it's time to move. If you're comfortable, it's time to go do something else.
Right.
Don't turn down a job. Don't turn down the job that nobody else wants, because you're going to learn something from that. So that's what I did.
How do you get comfortable running the LA SWAT team, counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, FBI academies? How do you get tired of that?
Well,
Or comfortable with that?
You never get entirely comfortable. I mean, I always say, I've got 1,900 people out there with guns. What could go wrong? You never get totally comfortable with it, but you got to trust the people that are trained to do it.
Right.
And you've got to give them the tools and let them know that you trust them, but you're going to hold them accountable for what they do.
So share with us a story about how you went from L.A. to Orange County, which most people don't know. You live in Orange County and have lived here for a very long time.
Long time, yeah.
So how did that come up?
Well, I lived in Dana Point, right down the road here, and I was commuting to Monterey Park, which is LA County headquarters, for about 10 years.
Wow.
And entered into my decision to retire. But when I was going through the appointment process, people kept welcoming me to Orange County, and I said, well, thank you very much, but I've lived here for many, many years.
I think that was my opening line to you.
I'm not new. Yeah, you said, welcome to Orange County. I said, thanks. But I'm a resident, yeah.
And I live just a few miles down the street here.
Yeah.
And what was it like applying for that and going through that process with our Orange County Board of Supervisors?
Well, it was interesting. You know, they hired a search firm after then Sheriff-Coroner decided to retire because he was under indictment and is still in federal prison, finishing his sentence. But they hired a search firm, so I applied to the search firm. And then 48, as you said, applied. 17 of us were interviewed by the search firm. And then here's an interesting take. 9 of us were selected to interview in front of the board in a public setting. So here's a interview for a job in a public setting, and everybody's watching because this is unusual to appoint a sheriff. You know, it's an elected position. And there was a lot of interest because of the indictment of the former sheriff and what's going to go on with this department. And I got selected. It got down to 2 of us, and I got selected on a resounding 3-2 vote. It was not unanimous. 3 people selected me to be sheriff of a county of 3.1 million people. But then I spent a lot of time going out into the community so people knew who I was, because now I'm running for sheriff in 2010. So I had to get out there, make changes in the department. I told them what I was going to do, and I just wanted people to get to know me. I think it's important for them to get to know the candidate. And, you know, a lesson to politicians out there, be honest. People can read through you. They can tell whether you're genuine or not.
Sure.
The voters are very intelligent that way. So
and actually, you're really not much of a politician. That's, I think, my favorite thing about you. And you don't play it one way or the other. You just play it down the middle, and you're kind of the anti-politician. Yet here you are running for office again.
Right.
What's that like?
Well, you know, as of 5 o'clock last night was the cutoff, and no one is running against me.
Wow,
so I'm running
congratulations.
which is something we call a free ride. And no, sheriff, you have to run for sheriff, but I don't think the sheriff should be political. By that I mean it's a nonpartisan office. Mm-hmm. I serve everybody. Mm-hmm. And
so it's not true that you only arrest Democrats?
No, that's not true.
I'd heard that.
An equal opportunity arrestor. So so it's important to keep the politics out of the office, and so I try and depoliticize it as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm careful. I get asked, Sheriff, what's your position on abortion? And, you know, I say it's irrelevant to what I do. My job is to protect people if they want to protest on either side of the issue, to respect their right.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's good for a sheriff to come out strongly on that.
But certainly, you know, there are issues that surface as sheriff-coroner, yes? And
yes.
One of the issues that seemed to surface early was sort of this concealed weapons permit issue.
Right.
Can you sort of give us a little background of what went on there and how many people carried concealed weapons permit at the time that you entered office?
Right.
And
yeah, well, for, you know, concealed weapons permits, you can have guns in your home, your place of business. That's not a problem.
Right.
But if you want to carry it concealed on your person, like under your jacket or in your purse, you have to have a permit from the sheriff. Mm-hmm. Well, the old rules, they've just recently been changed, and I'll get into that, but the old rules were you had to have good cause, meaning you had to have a reason beyond you know, the normal, you know, person could not carry one, so why am I going to give you the right to do that? So a lot of times some people carry large quantities of money late at night, or are engaged in businesses that put them at risk, or they've had a threat, or lately if they're in politics, you know, things like that.
They have good cause to carry a concealed weapon.
You're right, and so I would issue those. When I came in, what I said was there was a lot of controversy surrounding this, and people had reported that the prior sheriff, if you gave him a campaign contribution, he gave you an application for concealed weapons.
You got a badge too, as I recall. Those were handed out very freely.
You got a badge too. So what I said, LA Times reporter came to me, about a week after I'd been appointed and said, what are you going to do about those concealed weapons permits? And I said, well, I'm going to look at them. I'm going to review them and see if they're legitimate. And that created a firestorm.
Right.
Because that got translated into, oh my goodness, she's going to take away all our concealed weapons permits. So there were like 1,200. I think after I reviewed them, we got it down to about 900. Mm-hmm. And that number, 900, 980 was consistent for quite some time. And then there was that recent decision, the Peruta decision out of San Diego County. And the Ninth Circuit, it was a 3-judge panel, 2-1, said that good cause was unconstitutional, that people could have a concealed weapons permit for personal safety. And so that changed everything.
You keep winning or losing by 1 vote. Have you noticed that trend?
Yeah, it's always a 2-1. Yeah. So just like I said when there was this huge controversy about me looking at the CCWs and following the law of good cause, I said I'll follow the law. It's not my personal opinion, it's following the law. So now, I immediately posted to our website that we're going to follow the Peruta decision, and you can apply for personal safety. So the life of the sheriff is everybody's unhappy. The people who want the concealed weapons permits, I'm not moving fast enough. And then there's the Brady campaign on the other side of the equation that says, why are you following this decision? It's going to get overruled, or it's going to be reviewed. So you always have that. You got to have that balance. So for me as a sheriff, it's about following the law,
right? And
that's what I try and do. And sometimes people get angry about it, but that's.
And consistent with your view, I saw an interview where they asked you if you thought the decision was correct, and your answer was essentially, it's not my position to take a position on the decision.
That's right.
It's the law, and I'm going to follow the law.
It's as simple as that. It's the law, and I find it interesting that the sheriffs get caught in the middle, not the people who are making the decisions.
Right.
So, but that's just the way it is. So right now we are issuing them. We've had like 1,200.
It triggered an avalanche of applicants, yes?
A lot of applicants. We put some more people to work because we do a background. We don't just give you a concealed weapons permit. We do a background, make sure there's no criminal history, mental illness, the folks that we don't want to have weapons out there. And that has to go through the State Department of Justice. And then the training, they have to get some training, but not just shooting, but training on liability, when you can use the weapon, those kinds of things. So we're very careful to follow that procedure as well.
I mean, in theory, though, are we going to see more people carrying around concealed weapons?
You won't see them. That's the whole point of the concealed
We
weapons.
won't see people carrying around concealed weapons.
No.
Let me tell you, the first time I saw the sheriff, I think my second question to you was, are you packing?
Yeah, right. He did. And then he said, where is it?
Yeah, exactly.
But another interesting part of the case is this. Another item that they leaned on in their decision was recently in the state of California, open carry was abolished. You could not go around and carry a weapon. Now, when we had open carry, you could carry a weapon on your hip, but it couldn't be loaded.
Yeah.
But they eliminated that. So the judge said, because California eliminated that, you're not allowing people to protect themselves outside their homes. So that was another interesting twist. And Orange County, we have a similar lawsuit to Peruta, and virtually identical, but different people. And so that's also a consideration.
As our AG, Camilla Harris, isn't she challenging the Ninth Circuit decision?
She is. She's requested a review of the decision. And the Ninth Circuit itself can decide that they're going to hear it en banc, all of the justices. But I haven't heard that they've done that. The county, or actually Sheriff Bill Gore in San Diego County, could have appealed, and he decided not to appeal.
I'm curious. I'm going to go back. You said there are roughly 900 people who currently have these permits.
Right.
And you've had about 1,200 applicants. Of the percentage of those applicants that will ultimately end up with a permit, any sense of what that looks like? And are we going to double the number of people?
I would say easily. We could double the number of people. Most people that do apply, do have a good background. We don't get too many people with criminal backgrounds actually coming in to see us in the first place, but applying for it.
They do come in to see you, but involuntarily.
But in a different way, they come through a different door. But No, and most of them probably will be eligible for the permit.
And very quickly, do they apply online? Do they have to come in person for an interview?
They can apply online, but eventually there is a interview.
Great.
Yeah, everything's on our website.
Hi, I'm David Wilhelm, and this is Jimmy's Famous American Tavern. Jimmy's has been called a casual comeback for me. I think that's because most of the restaurants that I developed in the past were white tablecloth, upper-end restaurants. Jimmy's was designed as a place for friends and families to gather and enjoy regional American comfort food in a casual setting. Jimmy's Famous American Tavern. Simple and traditional.
You've proposed recently, and I think I got this right, you correct me if I don't, yeah? You proposed recently that some felons, sending home some felons with electronic monitoring devices
Right.
to help sort of deal with or relieve the jail overcrowding.
Right.
What's the situation there?
Well, after AB 109, the prisoner realignment, where, people who would have been sentenced to state prison for certain offenses are now being sentenced to the county jail. So right now I have close to 7,000 people in my 5 jails, which is nearing capacity. And so what I've already done is I went to the Board of Supervisors and asked, I had to get their authority to do electronic monitoring for some misdemeanor offenders. And we've been doing that for about a year now. And what I mean by that is they do most of their sentence, but the last 5-10 days, if they are a nonviolent offender, if they've got contacts on the outside family, we put them on electronic monitoring for the last 5-10 days of their sentence, and that helps us balance out our population. I'm running out of misdemeanors. We're 85% felon in our jails. Wow. Now, when people hear felony, they go, "Oh my God, you're going to let a felon out of jail." Well, a felon could be someone who's committed a petty theft, but they've done it more than one time. It's called petty theft with a prior. It could they be prosecuted as a felony. Is that person a danger to the community? No.
Right.
So those are the kind of people we're talking about, and it's only about 200 that would apply at any given that would be eligible at any given time. So I did go to the board. They're uncomfortable with it. I'm going to go back and explain it a little bit better to them, but because it's something I need to manage our jail population. We do have, we did get monies for additional jail construction, $180 million from the state, but it takes about 5 years to build out a jail. But that will keep the county with enough prison space for years and years to come. And we're also working on reducing recidivism, which I'm a big believer in. There are people that we can, with the right programming, we can get them out of the jail system, and because it costs you a lot of money. Whether you think someone should be locked up for their entire sentence, we're paying for their medical care.
Sure.
It costs a lot of money for the people that work in the facilities. It costs a lot of money to run the jails. Electronic monitoring is dollars a day versus $100 or a medical procedure that we have to do in custody. So
what type of programs are you referring to help people from coming back to prison again?
Right. Well, we've been doing a number of programs, but one of the things we're doing is we're identifying the people that come in and out of the system. We call them the frequent flyers. They've been in and out of our system many, many times. They recidivate. We're going to target them. And what we're going to do is look at their background and see what do they need to be successful. If it's a high school degree, we're going to work on that. If they need counseling and alcohol or drug abuse, we're going to do that. And we're working with nonprofits outside of the jail itself.
Excellent.
Because that's where we lose them when they get released from jail. And if they don't have any safety net, then they end up going back into their same behavior. So we're doing that. We're going to track it, and we're going to see how successful we are.
That sounds wonderful. And that program's starting? It's already started?
Right. We've already started it.
Excellent.
Is
Excellent.
that patented after someone else's program that has worked, or is this innovative and different?
It's innovative and different, but it's based on evidence-based practices that are out there now. And so we don't have a lot of that. We don't have a lot of data that shows us what works and what doesn't. So we're trying a variety of
In the
things.
60s, rehabilitation was a big theory of criminal justice, and you saw
Right.
that go away in the 80s and the 90s and lately.
And I think it went away because the crime rate went up, and then people were, they just want people locked up.
Right.
That's when 3 strikes came out, all of that. And so we're enjoying record low crime rates. And so I think people are now saying, well, hey, there might be a better way to do this for certain offenders. Don't get me wrong. Some offenders need to be locked up
Right.
and locked up forever because they're a threat to the community. They're violent offenders. But we're talking about people, and there's not a person in jail that has not had a drug or alcohol abuse problem that's led to some other crime. So if we can attack that, and on the other end, do prevention programs for our kids so that they never get into that system to begin with, I think we can have a real impact.
Hi, I'm David Wilhelm, and this is Jimmy's Famous American Tavern. Jimmy's has been called a casual comeback for me. I think that's because most of the restaurants that I developed in the past were white tablecloth, upper-end restaurants. Jimmy's was designed as a place for friends and families to gather and enjoy regional American comfort food in a casual setting. Jimmy's Famous American Tavern. Simple and traditional.
I'm going to make we're down to about 4 minutes. I'm going to make a sort of a dramatic shift here. Last year, you were diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer.
Yes.
You came out recently publicly announcing that, and you continued to work through your treatments. And I guess one of the things we all kind of want to know is, how are you doing currently?
Well, I'm in remission. I finished my treatments, and I had chemotherapy, surgery, radiation. I did everything the doctors said to do. Before you get cancer, you think, oh gosh, would I really do chemo? Or, well, when they tell you got stage 3 cancer, the first things out of your mouth is, what do I have to do to get better, to get well?
To stay alive.
Am I going to live?
Right.
And so I had a bone scan and mammogram. Everything's clear right now. So I got through it. And so my message to people is get checked frequently, do your self-exams. I had a mammogram 6 months prior. I found it myself, and it was already stage 3. And to women, if you find something, go in. Don't be afraid. Go in. It's treatable. Don't wait.
Yeah. The standard question is, how does this affect a person's perspective on life? But my question for you is, how does something like this affect your perspective on your career or your job?
Well, you do have that thought that, gee, am I going to continue to do this? How much time do I have left? And that's a constant, reminder. Every day, I can tell you it's changed my outlook for the better on life. You always say you're not going to worry about the little stuff. Well, after you've had a medical condition like that, you don't worry about the little stuff, and you do enjoy every day, like this beautiful day we're enjoying today. But I did decide that I wanted to continue to do this job because I'm enjoying it. I think I'm making a difference, and when I don't think that that's the case, then I will step aside for someone else to carry it to a higher level.
And by the way, I'm remiss in not complimenting how beautiful your hair looks today. We had an agreement that every time I saw you, I was supposed to say how beautiful.
Well, thank you, thank you, Robert. Thanks.
Hey, I guess we have time for one more, Megan. We got. What does it take to be a successful sheriff-coroner, do you think?
You have to. First of all, I think you have to have done the job of the people that you're leading. And so I've done everything. I wasn't a coroner. That's probably the only thing I haven't done. I haven't done an autopsy or anything, and you don't want me to do one. But I've worked the jail. I've worked the streets. I've worked investigations. I've done the things that they've done. So I understand the challenges that they have. And then you have to risk. When I say risk, you got to let them do their job. You got to trust them. You've got to tell them what you expect. Hold people accountable, but you got to trust them. And let them take it to a place you could never imagine. And that's what I've done my entire life as a manager. And it's worked for me, and it's working today. We got a great team, and I don't worry about it.
Beautiful,
It goes well.
Very nice. Hey, thank you so much. I mean, it's obvious why you were voted in or elected into this position. You come across as a very honest and genuine person. And
thank you.
I just appreciate you coming in and spending time with us.
Thanks. It was fun. Thank you. I had a great time.
Robert, of course, you made the call on this. So.
Well, thank you so much for coming in, Sandy. I have the honor of having her come on the board of the United Way with me in April. We're excited to have you helping out the community in that way.
Wow.
And you are the sheriff, but to quote Billy Joel, you're always a woman to me. So we'll go on that
It's
song.
a great way to close.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks for coming in.
That's beautiful. Hey, you've been listening to KX 93.5 FM. This is Radio Caravan. I'm Scott Hayes.
Robert Palmer.
And we're back next week. Megan, take us out of here.